Hi all, welcome back to Dad's Shed. This is part 4 of my Sine Plate build, and this is where we do all the bits to make it actually usable. So a very quick explanation. And sorry I'm sitting down, but I have a bit of a knee problem at the moment, which means I can't A, be at work, and B, can't do an awful lot of standing up, but I can sit down and talk through this. Right, on here we've got the Sine Plate that I've built, and I'll go through a couple of the little features on here. We've got the pivot point at the front and the rest bar at the back. We've got a relief under there of 65 thousandths of an inch, which enables me to put the gauge blocks down and underneath that roller. We've recessed at the front so that it avoids the pivots on the top, because the outside sections are screwed to the bottom plate. And then we've relieved the front in the last video with a cutter so that it will tilt up quite considerably. And that's all well and good, and it's looking quite nice, but it wasn't really going to work because there was no way of holding it down tightly enough to mill with the arrangement as it was, and I knew that. So what we've actually done, and what this video will cover, is ensuring I can actually access the bottom of the table so that anything that goes through the bore here can actually be tightened down underneath without taking the entire table apart. Making this bracket at the back here, which screws down into the T-slot, has a pivot at the front which will take a 3/8 Whitworth stud, and then coming up here we've got two semicircular washers, for want of a better term, that will locate on the bottom and into a slot that's cut in the top, and then that locates down there. So all I'm going to do in this one is tie the whole thing together and go through the manufacturing of these bits to actually make a usable, I hope, Sine Plate. I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it should be a lot shorter than the last 3, and we'll get you up to speed with what I've done to actually make it into a workable piece of equipment. Hope you enjoy it. Please do like and subscribe if you do. It gives me much more encouragement to carry on doing things like this outside of what I actually built this workshop for. So welcome back to Dad's Shed, and I hope you enjoy the Sine Plate part 4. What I have found is a few offcuts, and these are from when I milled down the side of the table. And if you may recall, if you watched part 1 of this, I used a 4-inch side and face cutter to slice off about 1 inch. Now the first one I did was rather smaller than that, and this piece here is approximately 3/8 by 3/4. So what I'm going to do, I put that in there. It's rounded where it's from the mill, but it's got 2 flat faces, so I've put them together. I've now mounted them in the lathe as close to centre as I can really get with these rough bits of steel, and what I'm now going to do is turn it down to round. And then one thing I have done is I've made sure that the cutter centres on the slot down the middle where the 2 pieces are joined together. So I've got 2 bits here clamped in as one. I'm going to turn it down to round, and then when I part it off it will fall into 2 halves, and then all I need to do is to drill 10mm one side, drill and tap 3/8 Whitworth the other, and then that will give me the rocking lock that I need for the top. Let's see how we go. Cheers. What are we going to do? What sort of speed are we going to do this at? Let's get that somewhere safe. And I reckon 800. Red, yep. Might help if I'm having the right speed. That was not 800. That's more like it. Well, that's about as close as I need it to be. Right, let's just set the dead stop here. So I now know that I'm going to come to the same point every time. See where we are on this. £22mm, and this is not centered, so what I'm going to do is knock that down a little bit. .95. Well, that's really, really close now, and that's almost spot on. Let's go up to 1,000. What am I doing? Okay, that's good, good, good. Let's, let's get that one out. I can go back in there. Okay, wrong button. Right, 2 halves. So what I will do is I'll put the 3 jaw back on there, and I'll just do the other end, and that should then be that ready to drill and tap. So that's the piece of stock that was used. And as you can see, it's just 2 halves, and it's the end piece that I milled off, so saves a few bob. What we got, there we go, that's what I'm after. That can come off for a moment. Certainly if I use the correct end it will. Okay, so there's my new piece. I'm not too worried about that side, it's flat, that's all I need. That will just take a washer for the securing nuts. So I'm reasonably happy with that for a piece of offcut. Right, let's go and look at the mill and see what we're going to do on there. So I've got the half round in the drill press and it's sitting in something I bought a long time ago and didn't use for ages, but it's actually quite useful, and it's a fairly cheap, but this is a fairly cheap in the 1980s, 1990s 3-inch cross vise, and it's really useful for keeping things in a line. Okay, all I'm doing here is doing a rough centre on that. Right, that's got to be 5/8, which that is approximately. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be dead centre, although as close as possible is good. And all I've got in here is a 12mm spotting drill. I'm going to drill into that. Right, that's spotted down nicely. I'll get that out, go over to a 10mm standard jobber drill. Give that a little bit of cutting oil just to help it. Okay, it's just drilled through into this scrap aluminium block that was sitting underneath it. Bit of blue roll. It's nicely drilled. Half round that will let me stick a 3/8 Whitworth stud through it with nice and comfortably. I say it's about half, the hole is about 1/2 mil up on what it needs to be for 3/8 Whitworth clearance, but that just means I've got a little bit of wriggle room on it. 6 6685. 6685. Right, let's take another 40 thou out. I'm just boring out the hole which will take the pivot. I'm going to take it up to 3/4 inch. I've got this set up so that when I get to 0 and take that down, I know that it's going to, when it hits the stop, it'll just be clear of the bottom. I've got a carbide tipped boring tool in the boring head. And I'm now just going to put on the cut. And if I add 20 thou to that, That'll be 10 thou. Okay, so that should be a 10 thou cut, 20 thou out the bore. Don't use this boring head very often, so I'm trying to remember whether what I'm putting on is the cut or the actual increase in diameter. I'm fairly certain it's the cut. So that should come out at somewhere around 690, 0.690. That's it, it's clear at the bottom. Nice slow return, feed, and it takes a little bit off on the way up as well. .693, 60 thou to go, 693. So let's take a 40 thou cut. No, let's take a 20 thou cut, which will give me 40 thou out. That should take me up to 730. Let's put a bit of cutting paste in there. Seven two two. $725. So 25 thou to come out. So it's 12.5 thou feed. Ooh, annoying, annoying, annoying. 3 thou under. Right, let's see where we are, and let's see if I can put on just over 1 thou cut. Alright, fingers crossed. Seven 750.5. 750.5. I think I'll call that a win. Yeah, having worked out how to use this for centering, I've now centered it up on that piece. I've drilled a 10mm hole through there to take as clearance for 3/8 Whitworth, and I'm now going to take a 12mm slot down the middle of this piece here. I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom of the bore. I'm only going to take it down to the same height as that piece there. I don't need to, I only need to get enough there to let it rock backwards and forwards between, let's say, just over vertical and about 45 degrees. So I've zeroed this at the level of the section at the back here. I'm using a 3-flute slot drill, running it at 970 RPM. Okay, so that's now done there. Let me just round off these corners and clean the sides up a little bit. I'll just do that on the belt sander. And then I've got to make the pivot that goes through there, and that will there, and then I'll be ready to start using the Sine Plate. Alright, I've thrown some steel in here. That's about right, it's about 1 inch from there. So let's have a look at what the diameter is on this. 0.9575. Stick the mic right on that. 9208 x 0.9208, enter, and I want to go down to 0.8. Let's do a quick check on that. Oh, a thou over. So let's give that a bit of a going over with some wipe down. Have another go. Yeah, half a thou under 3/4 inch. Now I'm going to take this down a shade because there's not a lot of clearance. I just need a shoulder there to butt up against. Drop that down to 600. Right, so that's that. Now let's see if this will actually part off completely. It should do. And that's there, end of that. See where we go. Ah. Lovely. Snapped another one. Well, that doesn't seem to like doing that, so we'll have to try another way. We'll come back once I've actually managed to part the damn thing off. Some cutting oil in there and see where we go. Don't want to do that up too tight, because all I'm planning to do with this is just take the end down. Right, let's put that up there. Okay, that's that off there. Right, just put this in there. It's a nice tight fit, so I'm just going to drill straight through with this. Right, so what we're doing here, I've just drilled through the top plate at 10mm. I've got a 10mm end mill, and I'm just going to bring that in and out. I should be using a slot drill, but I don't have one of the appropriate size. So drilled that hole there. Now using the end mill, I'm just going to double check something, make sure I did remember to tighten it up. Okay. Again, I'm using neat cut cutting oil. And the reason I've drilled a hole rather than cutting through it is obviously it's not an end cutting, it's a 4-flute end mill, and unfortunately the positioning of this means I can't actually travel off the end of the table. that's that for that one. Now what I'll do is I'll swap to my 45-degree cutter, and I'll just put a relief around the edge of there. Gives a little bit more room at this end, as well as making it a bit safer to play with. Okay, that's where we are on this. Excellent. Good. So that's that bit done. What I need to do to this now is undo the front end, so I release it, take the top plate off, remove the bottom plate from the mill, flip that over, and then on the other side, mill across. I'll probably use 8mm, and then I'll come in with this cutter again, and cut quite a nice wide V to sit my 3/4 inch half round block in. Okay, so this is now machined out. 45-degree chamfer either side, and that now sits down quite nicely in those chamfers, and we'll rock backwards and forwards. This is the top. I forgot about this bit. I'll explain what I'm doing here. I've made all the bits to use the table, and I suddenly realised that I need to be able to get to the back of the rotary table to tighten up the clamping bolts for anything I've got going through the bore of it. And as I really don't want to take the table off every single time to change what the part is I'm working on and tighten everything up, the only way to do it is to have a hole in here. So I'm going to bore out a hole the same diameter as that. First thing first, of course, is to get the hole made in the first place. So let's drop the speed down a bit. 500 should do the job. Might help if I actually get the... I am going to need to get a new belt for this because the belt is not happy. That's it. There we go. I need to make a note of that and get hold of a new one that will actually fit properly. The only problem with these, of course, is that in order to change the belt, the whole of the motor's got to come off, which is a little bit of a pain. Right, let's get that up there. Let's get some cutting paste or fluid. And see how this likes going straight through with a 1/2 inch drill. I've got a pilot hole in there using my 12mm pilot spotting drill. Well, I couldn't leave this without actually having a go at setting it up at some sort of angle. So this is bolted down. I've used a parallel at the back to square the sine table off against the column. I've used this to square that off there and then tighten these down. So that's now fixed. I've got a nice big hole under here so I can get through to the bottom of the centre. And I need this setting up for the bevel gear, and according to my drawing, and I have done a drawing, may seem a surprise to many people, but I've actually drawn it up, and that should be an angle of 36.89 degrees. So I've made the stack up 4.675, and I put this on here, and it is wobbling around between 36.8 and 36.9. It's reading 36.9 at the moment. So that is within 0.1 of a degree. I'm happy with that. That's an awful lot better than the previous setting was, because I don't know what it was. So the next little bit on here is utilising this stud at the back. And I need, so all I'm doing here, I've got a piece of studding. Okay, that's in there. It's nice and solid. That can go up there and sit against that. So I clamp that down there, so that's not going to move. That is still nice and tight on the gauge blocks. Just take that up a shade on there. And then that can sit on that. Right, so it's tight on the gauge blocks. That's on, that's tight, that's not going to go anywhere. There's the Wixie gauge, is showing 36.9, 36.8, 36.9. So that's right on the cusp of that, which is where it needs to be. That's now clamped down nice and tight and holding onto the back there. That's clamped in place. That's locked up, and there's my stack of gauge blocks. So that is now set up at exactly the right angle for what I want to do. So I'm rather pleased with that, and that's a lot more solid than the previous rather questionable setup I had. And obviously, as that will rotate, so I can set this at any angle I really need. The next bevel I need to cut after this one is the small bevel. That's at 53.11 degrees, and that will be a stack of 7.62 inches, so that will come up quite a bit higher. There we go. I'm looking forward to using that, but it won't be for a little while yet, because I've got a few other little projects or other things that the wife will want me to do before I even get to that. So just to make Sam feel happy, there you go. I've got a frog and a sheep are going to look after my sine table until I get around to using it. Hope you've enjoyed your visit to Dad's shed, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye all.